Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Good Friday morning to you all. I hope you guys are doing fantastic out there this morning, having a great start to your day, a great start to your weekend, a great ending to your work week, whatever it may be. I hope you guys are doing well out there. Thank you all for joining me this morning as we discuss the weather for your Friday. The eastern U.S. will be pretty active today. We even have a chance for some severe thunderstorms. We'll talk on that for the Carolinas. And no real threat of any kind of flooding or anything like that, but a lot of areas will see at least some rain. Certainly another rainy start to another weekend for the Northeast, that's for sure. But we'll break it down for you folks, talk about the ridge out west, and we will give you an update on Tropical Storm Tammy. Tammy could be a hurricane by the time some of you folks watch this video. This is not going to affect the lower 48 at all, but it is affecting our friends out there in the Leeward Islands, Lesser Antilles. So we need to talk about it, give you some updates on Tammy out there in the Atlantic. I made a video a couple nights ago speaking on a storm system I'm watching late next week. I'm still watching that storm system, and we'll give you an updated video on that and probably give you a couple updates on that over the weekend for our friends up in like Montana, the Northern Plains, just in general. And I mean, there could be a storm system even further south. We just need to watch this. This is a complex setup for sure. So if you guys have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that. Like that video if you like it. If you guys got anything I can pray about or pray over, as always, please put it in the comments below. It gives me an opportunity to pray over it, and it gives others an opportunity to do so too. Prayer is powerful. It's a great way to glorify God, and it's a great way to look out for one another. So let's get rolling this morning. All right, let's see if our pointer's going to work. It is. And let's get going. So if you notice, and this is water vapor loop, as you folks know, if you're a new viewer, this indicates how much moisture is in the atmosphere. So kind of the duller colors, more dry air, and the more white colors is more moist air. Now, this doesn't always indicate what's going on at the surface at all, but we have a ridge that's screeching across all the way up into Canada, and then it makes a dramatic dip into the eastern U.S., and this is our trough. And along this trough that you see where this dip is, you have sort of pieces of energy that can ride along the base of this trough and eventually just develop into an all-out low pressure. That is what is going to happen. That's what's happening right now, kind of the beginning stages of a low pressure that will become relatively strong off the coast of the Northeast here as we're getting into this weekend. Will kind of enhance more of a bigger rain shield across to the Northeast. But at the bottom of this is going to be vigorous enough to create a severe weather threat across areas of the Carolinas, especially South Carolina. We could have a couple rounds of storms. Am I expecting any kind of like huge severe weather threat? Absolutely not. But I mean, we could get some strong to severe storms today in my neck of the woods. I'm right in the middle of the severe weather threat today. So it will be interesting to see what's going to happen. I know my little girls, we're lucky to live almost right next door to the elementary school that my girls go to, and they're having a little fall festival tonight. That's kind of the stuff that I remember as a kid that I used to get really excited about, and we're hoping it doesn't rain. So hoping that these storms don't affect that. But a lot of weather just going on in general across the eastern U.S. For sure today. But outside of that, what's going on? Water vapor loop. I mean, high pressure dominating below this jet, which is kind of buckled up to the north due to this ridge. Not a whole lot's going on at all under this ridge out west. So that's what's going on based off water vapor loop. Let's move on to what's falling at the surface. And as you can tell, nothing really going on out west, and even in the central U.S. All the action is in the eastern U.S. with the system flying through. A lot of energy. It's kind of like you got dual areas of energy. One has already been there. It's been there over the last several days. Well, it's been moving over the last several days over portions of like southern Ontario and Canada. You got this mid-level spin up here, and then you have the development kind of a low pressure that will eventually scoot across the mid-Atlantic off the coast of the Northeast. But between both of these, you got energy out here. Nothing as far as severe storms right now. That could change as we get into this afternoon, mainly and really only for the southern section of this energy. But dealing with some rain this morning in West Virginia, the higher elevations of the southern and central Alps, rain moving into western Pennsylvania. You still got a lot of rain out there in Ohio, and then you kind of have kind of this first wave that's going to be creating a lot of wet conditions across southern New England, even New Jersey, Long Island, New York City regions. And then you got a lot of rain just off the coast of South Florida too. So that's what's falling out there right now. Speaking of that severe weather threat, I mean, here it is, a marginal risk. This is really kind of came into the picture over the last couple of days, but this covers up the entire state, my state of South Carolina, which is where I live, into the Piedmont, North Carolina, southeast North Carolina, and then extreme eastern areas of Georgia. This does include like Savannah, Charleston, Columbia, Charlotte, Wilmington, the Greenville-Spartanburg area. So there's a level 1 out of 5 risk of severe weather. Tornado threat, I wouldn't rule out some spins out there, but the threat of tornadoes is below 2%. Wind threat, 5% risk, and then 5% risk of, remember, 50 knots or higher winds out there. And then hail threat, you got a 5% chance to see some small hail out there. It's possible, for sure, with a little bit of cold air aloft. I mean, the storms today the threat of storms will be like in temperatures in the low 70s, upper 60s. So it's a little unusual as far as those thermodynamics, as far as temperatures. Typically, with a threat of severe weather, even in the fall here in the South, you typically get temperatures in the upper 70s, low 80s. Not with this one. Chance of flooding, below 5%. Not a big threat today. Just a lot of areas we'll see just rain in general. Watches and warnings. This beach yesterday. Just dense fog advisories out there right now. That's it. There's just not a whole lot going on out there as far as dramatic weather, if you will. So the southeast, like I said, there will be some active weather today. We keep this moving. A lot of moisture in the Bahamas today. If you're a viewer from the Bahamas, I know I never really get detail for you folks, but you're going to get a lot of tropical moisture throughout the morning and afternoon hours. But this is the main energy we're watching here, crossing the higher elevations of the southern and central Alps. And this continues to move east of the mountains. You're going to get like 2 waves. The first wave is, the first wave, which is making its way through Virginia, North Carolina, the Carolinas, just in general. So you could get some areas of showers through the central areas of the Carolinas throughout the late morning, early afternoon. And then we watch more energy that'll get fired up across eastern Kentucky, southern West Virginia, western Virginia, and then the higher elevations of Tennessee and North Carolina. This could develop into a line of storms. At the same time, you got the leftover energy from this morning, early afternoon, kind of developing into stronger storms. So I would argue like eastern South Carolina, southeast North Carolina could get the stronger storms. Okay, let's get a closer look at this before we talk too much in detail at a further away look at it. And here it comes. Moisture making its way into the Piedmont of South Carolina, North Carolina, the Midlands. This is around noon, 1 p.m., give or take an hour, and here comes these storms. They begin to try to strengthen as some thermodynamics, ingredients for severe weather, begin to build into the eastern Carolinas, especially South Carolina. So, down here in Florence, Orangeburg, up to Fayetteville, you could get some rumbles of thunder this afternoon. Some strong storms are possible. These will make their way all the way to the coastal regions. And then we could get another line of storms that might affect like the Charlotte area right around rush hour, 5 p.m., all the way up into Winston-Salem, Greensboro. You could get some storms, could get some additional storms that form down here kind of closer to the Georgia-South Carolina state line. Could get more storm action than what this is showing in eastern Georgia. But kind of just 2 rounds I'm watching. One makes its way through this morning into early afternoon, eventually into the mid-afternoon for the Carolinas, and then another one makes its way through just throughout the afternoon, evening hours. So it's going to be difficult to figure out exactly when these hit, but if you're heading to the beach this weekend, I would watch out for some storms this afternoon, early this evening. If you got any dinner plans or anything like that, I definitely think the beach, if anything, could get the higher threat of severe weather. Other than that, guys, that severe weather threat is not huge. I mean, who knows? They might issue a slight risk, but I'm not expecting it. But that doesn't mean it's not going to happen. So northeast, another kind of area where just waves of precipitation. Okay, you got a wave making its way through southern New England, making its way into southern New England this morning. This will create some heavy rain, especially for these higher hills in western Mass, western and northwestern Connecticut, New York City, Long Island. Could get some rumbles of thunder with this. You'll just kind of get a south to north movement. So that means that these are moving over the same region. So you could pick up a lot of rain fast in these areas, anywhere from Long Island, like I said, up into Connecticut, the western half of Mass, into southern sections of Vermont and New Hampshire. At the same time, the main energy is back here working its way out of West Virginia. And the cooler air is following this little line of gusty winds and showers right here into Virginia, Maryland. It's everywhere. There's a lot going on. Everything that is going on is not that big of a deal, but you got kind of two main segments. One is right here in New England. Heavy rain throughout the afternoon. This rain will make it into Maine later this afternoon to this evening. Just some showers. And then we got this main little line that develops, I would say, back here in Virginia, then kind of develops more a little bit further northward into Pennsylvania. Some gusty winds accompanied with this, some heavy rain, Washington, D.C., right around the time a lot of people are getting off work. Kind of a gusty line of showers could make its way through. This will make it all the way to the Delmarva region. Then it'll eventually weaken, and you'll continue to just get a southerly flow into southern New England. I mean, all the way from the coastal sections, all the way to the Canadian-U.S. line, just a consistent feed of moisture into this region right into here, and just back in showers. Our folks here in the southern tier, Finger Lakes region, central New York area, you could get a line of showers that makes its way through later this afternoon into this evening, into later overnight. Then a little bit of northwest flow behind this backside of this low pressure could create some more shower activity for northwest sections of Pennsylvania, eastern Ohio, West Virginia. I don't think there's quite enough cold air to be involved for even these higher elevations of West Virginia to get snow. But waking up tomorrow morning to just more rain, especially for kind of eastern New York State points northeast. Rainfall between now and the next 24 hours. Like I said, this area right into here is going to be favored for the most rain. Maybe an inch, 2 inches. Somebody might get 3 inches of rain today in western Mass, western Connecticut, southern sections of Vermont. Almost got Vermont, New Hampshire mixed up a little bit there. Could get some heavier rains in West Virginia. Somebody might squeeze out an inch of rain for sure. Moving further west, everybody else is pretty quiet. We're probably going to breeze through these areas pretty quick, but the south central U.S., very quiet weather, not a whole lot going on. Unfortunately for, cooler weather fans, fall weather fans, it is very warm for this time of the year, getting into the kind of the later half of October. It's definitely warmer than average out here, especially in the southern high plains region. So unfortunately, definitely more like a kind of a late summer-like day, but no precipitation expected. North central U.S., same kind of deal, pretty quiet. Another system will move out of Canada as, remember, this jet bulked up all the way into Canada and kind of screeching southeastward. So all the little pieces of energy, storm systems are kind of flying from the northwest to the southeast. Kind of a northwest flow. So this will bring some rain into extreme northeast areas of Minnesota later this evening. And then it could introduce some rain. And as you can tell on the cooler side of this up in Canada, a little bit of snow falling, but could introduce some sporadic downpours later on tonight in areas of extreme north, maybe International Falls, northeast Minnesota. Could bring some shower activity into western areas of the UP and Michigan, northern Wisconsin as we're waking up tomorrow morning. So you might have an organized area of showers there. Some of these showers could make their way all the way into southern sections of, southwestern sections of Michigan, northern Indiana. Very possible. Out west, man, nothing going on, being dominated by high pressure. So it's just very quiet. Very quiet. Most of these storm systems are moving into Canada, but as this ridge weakens, I think it's going to get much more active into the western U.S., but quiet today. Temperatures, there's a pretty distinct boundary today. And I kind of showed you why the trough is digging down, the jet is digging down right over the eastern U.S. But, for example, Illinois will be a weird state today. If you live in southwestern portions of Illinois, it'll warm into the upper 60s, low 70s. But if you live up near Chicago, just highs in the 50s. Okay, just kind of there's basically a boundary right in here between cooler air and then warmer air. Now you get down to the Carolinas, just rain-cooled air, highs in the 60s and 70s. Northeast, 50s, 60s, depending on where the rain's falling. Just a wet, cool day in Ohio, western Pennsylvania, West Virginia for sure. I mean, Kentucky's another one of those states, northern, northeast portion of the state, only in the 50s for highs. You head on over to Paducah, maybe 70 degrees. Okay. The further west you work, the warmer it gets. And you get in Texas, Louisiana, highs in the upper 80s, low 90s. So a warm day. Very warm all the way up into the Dakotas. Enjoy this warm air up here in Montana, Dakotas, because you could get some very cold air on the way. We'll talk about that this weekend. Talked about it in the video a couple days ago, but a warmer than average temperatures dominating everybody out west. Doesn't matter if you're in a microclimate or not, you live higher up, your temperatures will be warmer than your average temperature this time of the year. Even still getting those 100-degree temperatures out here in the desert Southwest, warm in Las Vegas. So, yeah. Let's take a look at Tammy. Tammy's out here chilling. At least the origins of her has been with us for quite some time. Lesser Antilles right here, Leeward Islands, British Virgin Islands right over here. Tammy's kind of a weird looking system, almost has like two areas of main convection, but in general, it looks like your typical mid-level tropical storm. Intense convection only in kind of one area. Well, two areas really, but as far as over that low-level circulation, it's pretty intense. It's not a very large, strung-out storm, that's for sure. We look at what's going on from the Hurricane Center. I'm going to have to speed this up. Here my girls in there fighting in the living room. If we look at the National Hurricane Center, Tropical Storm Tammy, one thing I want you to notice right off the dot, this is a 60-mile-per-hour tropical storm. Could be stronger by the time some of you folks watch this. But one thing I want you to notice, here in the orange, right here, this is where the center of circulation is. It's saying the worst conditions, the tropical storm force conditions, are on the northern side of this X, which is the low pressure, in the eastern side of this X, and even the southeastern portion. So what do we know? Well, if this passes and makes the track that it's forecast to make, kind of a tick east of making a technical landfall into the Leeward Islands, then this would keep most of the worst impacts east of these islands into here. Actually, they're not fighting. I think they're in there singing. So, I'm getting all off track, guys. But it would bring the worst impacts east of the island. So that would be good news. Now, if this was to track a little bit deeper, maybe even sneak into the extreme eastern areas of the Caribbean, then that would be a different story. That would bring nastier impacts for the Leeward Islands. But for now, just tropical storm warnings up, hurricane watches up. No hurricane warnings as of right now. But this is forecast to develop into a hurricane right on top of the Leeward Islands. So we need to watch this. I guess it's the same screen. Another way to look at this, here we go. Another way to look at this is 60-mile-per-hour tropical storm. Guadeloupe, you guys got a tropical storm warning and hurricane watches. I think it's pronounced Antigua and Barbuda. I think that's the way you pronounce it. Right now, if the National Hurricane Center is dead on, this is forecast to make landfall somewhere in that region, right in the Antigua, Barbuda region. If anybody's going to get an upgrade to a hurricane warning, it would be right here in this region, okay? But like I said, if this was to make landfall right in here, the worst impacts would be just east of it. But please be aware of this. This isn't going to move over your area super slow, but not super fast either. But this is forecast. Get to a high-end Category 1 hurricane, okay? But that'll happen once it gets past all these islands. So definitely be prepared. Definitely a rough start to the weekend, but I don't think it's anything you guys can't handle whatsoever. But certainly you're going to get tropical storm force conditions. You're going to get a strengthening tropical storm passing either right on top of you guys or either just, I would say maybe just east of you guys. So hunker down, be prepared. Several inches of rain, I'm sure, is possible with this, and very gusty winds. So that's all I got. Excuse me, losing my voice. God bless all y'all. Have a great Friday, and I'll talk to you again soon.